Alrighty. Once upon a time, there was a character.
Hey, how you doing?
This is a pretty cool character. They could do dodge roll resets, you know, roll around, infinite roll shenanigans, fun stuff. Some other stuff too that I don't really care about. But one day, in the midst of a great battle, she lost all of her skin. This is this chicken server. You should probably join me. It's chicken server. I like it. Paladins. Paladins is a game. I played it a lot back in the day, and then I kind of stopped playing it, and then started playing it again multiple times. I've kind of been in the community, kind of ish. Because of that, skins. Why am I bringing up skins? Well, the skins these days are pretty good. I like them a lot. But the community can sure have some things to say about the rather choice distribution of the skins, or rather, who gets the skins and who doesn't. It's safe to say every character that isn't new outright has at least a small collection of skins to choose from and play with. However, to say the least, some characters have more or sometimes much more than other characters, leading some theorists in the community to assume there is some favoritism among the developers in which characters get all the effort that goes into these skins, and thus coining the phrase I made up, skin favoritism. Feel free to get used to those run-on sentences. I feel like they're not going to end here. When you're kind of waltzing in the community for a little while, you might start to hear a lot of junk about this skin favoritism, and if so, you'd also likely hear a lot of names being thrown at the wall for who is the favorite and least favorite, with often one or two characters that are just set in stone to be definitive favorites. This pattern people find can be surprisingly consistent, however not totally accurate. So, because I apparently enjoy disagreeing with people, am super devil's advocate-y, and like telling my fellow Paladinians that they are wrong and holding an abstract and senseless feeling of superiority, I made a list of numbers, dates, and everything in between, but mostly dates. I like dates. I'm gonna get some water, hang on one sec. My inspiration for this list was due to the quote-unquote controversy around Mr. Torvald, as of recent, he had no new skins since late 2017. Keyword had, of course, since he has at long last gained a fancy skin within the last few patches here. I've always been cynical to the notion that characters, especially Torvald, were so badly off in the skin department, and always had my own opinions that were fighting with the ones I would see on my screen. How I decided to settle the score was simply to fact-check every character. This would evolve into the creation of said list. This list initially only included the date of the last generally major skin for every character, but then I realized I could go further. I wanted a solid number to substantially quantify the exact amount of high-effort skins everyone received, while also regarding the amount of time they existed, to create a decisive list, including every character in the game, to answer the simple question of if there truly are favorites that we can draw from skins. Who is the favorite, and perhaps more interestingly, who is the least favorite? This video is an ode to that simple, age-old question. Transition. I suppose I should mention here that most of the info gotten for this list is via the Paladins wiki, and all information gained from said source has been fact-checked by, well, my own memory of events, as well as some discussion I've had with my girlfriend who has witnessed the same events, and others in Paladin servers as well. That, however, is a nice little transition into random stuff. Some miscellaneous notes about the list that there might be some questions about. Disclaimers commence. Disclaimer 0, because I forgot this one and added it in post. Every and all info in this video is obviously spoken of in the context of the current state of Paladins. As it is currently the crossover patch thing with Genlock, this obviously means I will not be including any skins that arrive after this patch because I can't tell the future. So you may think of this as simply a retrospective on the current state of the game, skin-wise that is. Who knows, maybe I'll do some kind of follow-up video to this in the future or something. Disclaimer 1. The largest point of this list is to designate how much effort was put into each character via skins. Therefore, a lot of these older skin fragments, specifically the ones reflecting Paladin's old skin system, where sometimes characters would only receive a weapon or only receive a headpiece, those will not be included in the final calculations. This is obviously because including these would be confusing, slightly redundant, and not exactly reflective of the amount of effort put into the character when compared to full skins. I wish to use solid numbers in considering the overall major skins rather than including the smaller 0.5s or 0.25s of skins that might muddy up the numbers. Maybe I'll do something considering all that junk too eventually, but for now I'd like to focus on the big boys rather than Ash's damn gold crest thing that looks awful by itself. Disclaimer 2. For the same reason as in the previous disclaimer, I will not be including recolors in the major skin count. This includes either recolors of the default skins that you can buy with gold, recolors of either repeating major skins, example the Sailor Moon looking skins, and even golden skins despite how sick they are. What I'm looking for are complete skins, not fragmented or just different recolors / accessories with completely unique bodies, headpieces, and weapons. There are some slight exceptions to this, like Cassie's Northern Watch skin having the same headpiece as their default. I know there's more examples of this, but that's the only one that comes to mind right now. And yes, gold skins, despite them being really cool, they're still just extra shiny recolors with some fancy effects to boot, let's be real. I love golden skins, I don't know who wouldn't. Love the mastery stuff, love having something to work towards while you're messing with characters, or even just grinding for a really good golden skin. Because of that, I did want to show some respect and record the dates of when every character got their golden skins on my big old list. This subsequently shows which characters do not have golden skins, which, as of this moment, are Eevee, Fernando, Inara, Khan, Moji, Pip, Saris, Tyra, Victor, and Willow. I'm honestly surprised at how many they got done. For some reason I felt like they were being pretty slow about it, but it looks like they're actually chipping away at it more than I thought. Nice. Disclaimer 3. When it comes to characters' default skin reworks, it's been a bit odd trying to figure out what to do with them, but when you think about it, it really is basically a whole new skin for whichever character, and in the process of attempting to see who has the most effort put into them, what other type of skin would get the most effort put into it than the default skin that you're always going to associate with that character? Let me clarify what I mean by default skin rework quick. Sometimes characters that were developed quite some time ago, when looking at them in the modern lens and focus of Paladins these days, the art style and basic principles that the devs kept in mind for characters in order to make the default skins, they sometimes conflict with the modern scope of how we or the devs see the characters now. As a result, very occasionally a character might receive a rework on the default skin of a character in order to more properly represent the character in the present meta of the game and lore and whatnot. Think, as the newest case of this, Sky, or the oldest example of this, Buck. Both of these characters, of course, had the original ideas of what they were to look like, but eventually they decided to switch it up a bit in order to more properly represent the characters. To sum it up, I will be including default skin reworks in my calculations as simply another major skin. All characters that receive default skin reworks include Barrack, turning from a dwarf into more of a dwarf, the aforementioned Buck, I wasn't there for that one, so I don't know why they changed it. Cassie, who had a crossbow, which is pretty cool, I guess. Grok, who turned from a hunchback ogre into a Chad ogre. Ruckus, who is just way more in character now rather than all sci-fi. The, again, aforementioned Sky, who just looks better now. And Victor. I actually found some art by Thunderbrush of some potential reworks, like with Vivian and a few others, I think. I don't know if they were ever actually planned or just the artist messing around, but they're cool, so I thought I'd mention them as a fun little addition. Disclaimer 4. This is the last one. So there's a few notes that I wrote down regarding certain skins. I had some difficulty figuring out if they should be counted as major skins or not. To some extent, certain skins could be considered recolors with accessories rather than major skins. Unfortunately, it's hardly cut and dry, so I'll do my best here to explain my thoughts on the most confusing skins and explain why I did or didn't include them. Some people might disagree with my choices here, and that's all good. In the end, it'll come down to what every individual thinks about each skin. I do not pretend to be unbiased in this situation. I'm simply asking whoever's watching this damn thing to understand. end. Anyway, let's go over him real quick. Bomb King's Biz King is surprisingly close to just being a recolor. It's extremely based on the original skin, with the only differences really being textures and of course colors. The only real difference model-wise is the $sign on his crown. Other than that, it's just a recolor with fancy textures. Goes either way, but in my opinion, not major. Grover's Winter Skin is just a recolor, but actually somehow even less effortful than a recolor, considering they took the bushes off of the top of him. So it's actually just a recolor with even less effort put into it than the usual recolor. Not major. Genesis Eclipse is mostly a fancy recolor, with the only differences to the original being a different cape and some horns slap on for good measure. Some details are even removed from the default skin, giving it somewhat of a Grover Winter effect, but at least they did add some details model-wise, so that's good, I guess. Still not major, though. Canessa's Viking skin is something I originally thought would be included, but when I actually took a better look-see at the similarities, it's just very minor differences, and then just helmet. It honestly reminds me more of a single helmet headpiece plus a recolor, rather than a full skin. Which is honestly how I wish it was. I hate the helmet. Can't call it a major skin after taking a good look. You'll notice that a lot of these problematic skins are all old. Yeah, that doesn't change. Maeve has a ton of older skins that seem-ish like major skins, but really aren't. Alley Cat is one of these, as well as both the Dreamhack and Strike skins, which despite having some really slick effects, that's about all they get aside from the usual color changes. As much as I like them, they ain't major. Prosperous Makoa is the same model as Cuddly and Plushy Makoa, aside from the differently modeled head. I'm obviously counting just one of these as a major skin, and the other two I will not be counting as major, as Plushy or Cuddly, or whichever of them came first, is definitely a recolor of the other. And Prosperous is, again, reminiscent of just another headpiece, which I don't count. Pip's Raider skin was really weird. It is definitely different enough, I feel like, to be a major skin, but also very similar to a lot of the skins that I would consider not to be major, which is a bit of a predicament since it's still very based on Pip's default. Like, his whole upper body and head are unique, but his lower body is untouched, and so is his weapon. In the end, I still can't really figure it out, so I guess I'll just put it at major, because I feel like that would be better due to the indecisiveness. Yeah, sure. That's definitely the one I'm most unsure about, just because I feel like I might be contradicting myself, but Ruckus's Hawk has subtle differences, aside from the color, of course, from the original default Ruckus skin. However, it is so based on the original, with nothing too crazy different, aside from those Samus-looking shoulders, that I cannot really, in good faith, make it major. I thought it would be, but the more I looked at it, nah. It's a recolor with slightly differentiating armor pieces, not major. Strix's Raven and Cold Snap are also pretty odd. I think they're both pretty cool, but they're just not different enough. Very similar to why I was worried about keeping Pip's skin as major. There's just not nearly enough going on. In my opinion, these can go either way, just depends on who's choosing. Just seems like recolors with accessories to me, not major enough. Lastly, Victor's Code Greed skin. Yeah, I'll go with that. All of these skins use the same base and slide off in random directions, but only slightly. Once looking at them closely, you can really tell just how similar they are, which would make it odd to put them all as major, because one, that'd be a lot of majors for the lad, and two, they're just, yes, too similar. I wonder how many times I've said that already. Anyway, one will count as major, the rest, not major. Alright, that's it. Ooh. Alrighty, on to the point of the video. In the end, there were two conclusions I wanted to draw with the list. The first is simply, who hasn't had a major skin for the longest? This is very cut and dry, as all that was needed was to collect the dates of every character's last major skin was released, and boom. So I'm gonna stop wasting time and actually start talking about the thing I wanted to talk about. The longest character to go without a skin is... Okay, let's pause for a second here. In case you hadn't noticed by the stellar gameplay in the background, I am Cassie. I'm the Cassie guy. I'm the Cassie guy. Because I play Cassie, that clearly means I am the quintessential Cassie guy and no one can say otherwise.
Sure, Jan.
Me saying Cassie needs a skin was simply a joke once upon a time, but I slowed down on using it as the reality became more and more pressing around me, presenting the idea that she's gone the longest without a skin to my friends or whoever. It's been dismissed at this point. It's a joke. Look at me now, huh? Look at me now and suffer from your sins. Who's laughing now? Because I'm sure not.
Sure, Jan.
Once upon a time, I awaited the day another skin for our favorite red-haired, bow-wielding roller, and all the poor lass has to show for was a skin released on my birthday in 2018. Precisely 1,099 days since the crossover patch thing. That's longer than a lot of characters have even existed. And to add insult to injury, said skin turned her into a whole other already existing character entirely. By the way, I don't dislike the skin. I'm not critiquing it in any fashion. I think it's just fine. Come on, cut me some slack. Anyway, uninformative, hopefully humorous, and entitled biases aside, I'll just say to that one lad on Discord who told my girlfriend that Moji hasn't had a skin for longer than Cassie, you're just straight up wrong. That's right, I'm taking the pettiness to a whole nother level. Unless you're talking about gold skins, in which case you're right. I suppose I should mention here that Yaggaroth is Yaggaroth and has no skins. The skin potential for this character is extremely high since they're so new and stuff, blah blah. Trust me, we'll come back to Yag. I'll save the explanation for then. The next character in line for not having a skin for a while is indeed the fan favorite to complain about, Moji Woji. Yeah, this character deserves a skin at this point in my opinion, for a character that seems somewhat out of place in this game as a whole style-wise. Getting as little attention as she doesn't exactly help her case. You can probably expect to see her in the next section. I think. I actually don't remember. In any case, her last skin was her Cuddly skin, reminiscent of Cuddly Makoa, acquainted to her on November 14th, 2018. Next up is Pip, who used to get a ton of skins from what I remember, but then apparently just stopped. The last skin Pip received was, ironically, Pepper, a skin that, again, turned him into a completely different character, and this time I'm actually being serious. I wasn't really aware of this gap in skins, to be honest, but I do think anyone this low on the list deserves another skin at this point, even if I'm not a huge fan of their design. Pip mains, rise, your character calls. Also, I don't like you. Nah. Also, I just remembered that the skin came out the same day as Moji's last skin, so technically they're both tied for second longest without a skin, rather than Moji being ahead. But yeah, they are both second and third on November 14th, 2018. The fourth longest waiting character is the flighty, lighty fairy Willow. Why did I write that? Willow herself is kind of an odd case of non-human enough to be a little difficult to find skin inspiration for, and from what I can tell, her skins do reflect that, as they are mostly recolors of a few major skins she's already received. In any case, her last skin was Sugar Plum, connected to a fancy DLC that I don't remember, and was implemented December 10th, 2018. As a bonus to her case, this is the last character whose most recent skin was released in 2018. I also find it interesting that every character so far, aside from Cassie, have no golden skins. So 3 characters that don't receive many skins these days also haven't received any sort of skins as a whole, not even the golden skins that are becoming universal. I don't think that they won't receive skins in the near future, but it is telling of their popularity / dev favor in the current state of the game. Alrighty, number 5 is Grok. Somehow, I always feel like this guy gets no skins. Even when he's getting skins, he seems to have it down bad in the public opinion. I have no evidence supporting what I just said, but that's the feel I get with this guy. His last skin was on January 16th, 2019, being this funny looking chieftain skin. I remember people always used to advocate for Grok skins at a point where I felt like he was getting at least a half decent amount, and now I don't really hear them very loud when it has actually legitimately been a while. Says something about Grok mains, huh? Okay. Those were the bottom 5. From there, I have less and less to say about the characters aside from, haven't seen skins for them in a while, and you know, that's kind of the point of this video, so yeah. The characters going up from here are Shaolin and Dredge, who are tied, Makoa, Atlas and Sky, tied, Maldamba and Barrack, tied, Fernando, but you know, at that point, Fernando's latest has already been a year after the latest skin. So I'll just put up the list of characters with the dates of the latest skins in order for those who are interested here. I didn't see any reason to cover the opposing side of the list, considering, I mean, everyone knows they got skins. Duh, it's these guys. Good for them, I guess. Alright. Math. Everyone knows what math is. That is a statement. Why I bring that up is because we're moving on to hopefully the more interesting list overall. As I said in my intro, I wanted a solid number that I could equate with characters regarding how many major skins they have and how long they've existed, in order to compare who definitively is the most ignored and the most attentioned, there's a word for that I'm sure, with a final and decisive skin ratio, as I'll call it. I have also since thought about it too much to the point that I have no clue if ratio is the right word for it, but I've already used it a billion times, so yeah, live with it. I figured the number, or skin ratio rather, would work best if measured in a yearly fashion, as in for every champion, how many skins are received at a yearly rate. I'm aware there could be better ways to do this, but the number makes it relatively easy to visualize. If I measured the skin count per champion as per patch or per month, it would be almost too inconsistent but not impossible to measure, while the number would also be just extremely annoyingly low. I'd like the numbers to be at least slightly impressive, so for now I'll just stick with yearly. Alright. With that being said, let's get ready to do some math. The system I used is pretty simple. I don't know how to slap a formula on the screen and say, this is what I used, but all I really did was take the date a character was officially implemented into the game, the time between that date and the date of the current patch, to obviously find the number of days they have existed till the current patch. Once we got that, we divide it by 365 and get the number representing how long via years that they've been around. Lastly, we divide the number of major skins by that yearly rate the character's been around, and we get the sacred skin ratio. Got that? Now do it for every character. I'm joking, I already did. Once we got all that done, let the comparisons and I told you so's begin. Let's start at the top. The number one most skinned is... oh boy. Ray. Ray is an anomaly of the system. This is expected though, considering the process that I used. Ray, of course, came out in the current patch we are existing in, and just so happened to gain a major skin on the same day of July 21st, 2021. Considering I chose the end date for all my calculations to also be that exact date, her skin ratio kind of breaks the formula. It would either have to be 0 or literally infinite. So yeah, Ray is a byproduct of this admittedly flawed system that we're gonna have to push to the side for now, as she is simply too new to be recorded on this list. If she were to, say, exist for a year without any new skins, her skin ratio would be most similar to Makoa and Io, who are on the lower side, just to show how drastic the change will be in the future. Anyway, let's move on from that and see who the real number one is. Oh boy. Okay, yeah, it's Vatu. And you know, I'll just spoil the next couple slots. The next two are Octavia and Vora, literally just the newest characters that happen to have at least one major skin. Vora is the first character here that I think might be legitimate. The reason Vatu and Octavia are so high is pretty much the same reason Ray is. They're new and have a single skin. Since they haven't been out for more than a year, their yearly score does not reflect that, and just assumes that they will get another skin the same amount of time into the year that they got their last skin, thus the crazy numbers. So yeah, you know what, let's just pretend those characters don't exist, alright? Yeah, ignore all that. The system works flawlessly with 0 flaws. Who is the real number one? I actually know this one. It's Khan. Khan has a crazy number of skins for how young he is. Granted, he's not exactly a spring chicken. He's been around since April 12th, 2018. His skin count hard overcompensates, just like everything else about him.
Come for the magistrate! You're you are outmatched! Pounding you was very cathartic.
With a skin ratio of 1.34. That's not the one. With a skin ratio of 1.83, the first reasonable number that is still very high in comparison. My guess why it's so high is that he was introduced at a perfect time where the devs stopped putting small amounts of effort into smaller, less interesting skins and whatnot for characters, and started barreling forward with the really high effort skins they've been releasing up until the present. Therefore, he has only received great skins and has been around long enough to where he's got quite the number accumulated. Next up, Rom. Rom, I would say, has a slight bit of new character syndrome, considering he only has 3 major skins. which is, still nothing to scoff over. In any case, he was introduced on November 6, 2019, so he's certainly valid enough with a skin ratio of 1.75. I was totally not expecting the two tippy top characters to be tanks, let alone these least talked about characters, but we'll get into some familiar faces soon enough, don't you worry. Speaking of familiar faces, third is Tyra, with a very high 8 major skins and an equally high 1.74 skin ratio. Not surprised to see her here at all. She's been around for just less than I've been playing the game, and she seems to always be the fallback skin lady. Don't know who to give a somewhat generic skin? Try Tyra. Aside from Victor, you can hardly go simpler design-wise than Tyra. Not a jab. I like Tyra. Next up for fourth is Leon. With one less major skin than Tyra, and a release date a chunk later, Leon's sitting pretty on her throne of simps in the dev office. She's got 7 skins to show for and a skin ratio of 1.73. Despite her being generally generic looking as well, she has some of the best skins in my opinion. So, although I'd appreciate some sharing, Miss Leon, she does own it pretty damn well. So what can I say? Guess being a queen or whatever means she should have quite the wardrobe, so at least it's consistent. Alrighty, fifth. Oh, 5 keys breaking a little. Is Ying. Now here's when everyone expected to be real high. One look at this character's skins and you might think she'd be right at the top. She's been out since almost the beginning of the game, at least a hell of a lot longer than most of the characters here. Although she does have a ton of major skins, the most in the entire cast in fact, a lot of the skins you see in her collection are a ton of recolors among her original ones. The fact that she's so old is the main reason she's not higher, but it's still damn impressive that she's managed to get this far despite that ailment. Her final skin ratio is 1.7. Alrighty, those are the top 5, aside from those are the characters that don't exist. I'll go down the list a bit and quickly cover some more characters in case they have anything interesting to note. The skin ratios, despite being generally similar numbers so far, begin to have slightly more of a drastic drop from here on out, so I consider the mentioned top 5 to be the legit favorites for now. Anyway, 6th is Saris, with a skin ratio of 1.64. Makes sense, her character design allows for a lot of fun, creative skins, plus she won the first community skin a while back, proving that she was technically the most popular to get a skin at one point. 7th is Furia, with a skin ratio of 1.6. Nothing really to note, she's been quite popular choice for skins since she was released, and considering she's not that old, it makes sense to me seeing her this high. Next is Amani, with a skin ratio of 1.59 and has a decent case of newer character syndrome, obtaining 4 major skins within her short existence. 9th is finally Maeve, who everyone seemed to be convinced was the most popular for a while. With a skin ratio of 1.57, most of her old skins are recolors of her default, making her actual skin count quite unimpressive. The thing is, she has a lot of recolors, which is, in my opinion, why people often mistake her as having a ton of quality skins. 10th is Genos, with a skin ratio of 1.5. Nothing really to say here, as we're getting to the realm of averagely high skin ratios that I don't have much to talk about. Just to blanket mention a few more, next in line are Zin, Victor, Bomb King, Koga, Androxus, Tiberius, Strix, and I'll end off with Fernando, Pip, and Sky, who all 3 are tied for 18th, 19th, and 20th place. Alright, sick. Those were the lucky ones. How about the not so much? The juicy ones that everyone wants to know. Who do we yell to the devs about now? Not just assuming, but yelling definitively. Well, let's check it out. Alrighty, number 0, the lowest of the low, the absolute most ignored character in the game, without a doubt, and definitely something you should complain about on Twitter, and to your mom and then fire your mom is, yeah, oh boy. Yeah, we got the same song and dance on this angle too. Yaggaroth is the lowest for the exact same reason Ray was. Yag's been out for a grand total of 168 days since the last patch, and has the same skin ratio as she has number of skins. Nothing but a fatto. Again, kinda here by default, and doesn't really count, right? I mean, if she acquires a single skin in the near future, she's suddenly going to be at the very top of the list, and those who shall not be named will have a shiny new wormy member. Whatever she gets, I look forward to see what the devs come up with. But anyway, on to the actual lowest. For some reason I thought I would be wowed by the result, but instead I'm honestly just sad. Number 1 for the lowest skin ratio is Atlas. I don't even really have anything to say. He's been out since March 27th, 2019 and has a single major skin. Hell, even skins at all aside from his default color. That's over 2 years. ROM was released 7 months after Atlas, and now has 3. I didn't really expect that Atlas would be this far down. For some reason I always thought of him as pretty new, even though it's been 2 years, and it makes sense that he's here, but once I saw it, like, there was nothing surprising or interesting. It was just sad. This guy was introduced, thrown a bone, and then they left with the kids. Poor guy. Like, I feel like there isn't even anything to say. It's just sad. Not interesting, not surprising, just sad. Everyone, a moment of silence for the most tragic boy in the realm. Went back in time to save the world or something, just to be the most ignored character in the entire game, with a beautifully low skin ratio of 0.43. Anyway, time for number 2, Willow. I feel like my explanation for this one is the opposite of my explanation for Khan. She was released on May 3rd, 2017, during the time that most accessories and recolors instead of full skins were being made for a lot of characters. Since she was just introduced around that time, her spotlight gained a lot of said thingies that aren't counted on this list. When the limelight on her left, she was just ignored more so than usual, likely because of her slightly odd design. In any case, her first full skin was a slightly fancy recolor before she got her first major skin, Hemlock, a while later, and then just received a slightly different version of that same major skin. In other words, while some characters, especially nowadays, might have acquired 3 major skins in that time, she got 1 major and 2 recolors. Eventually she did get another one tied to a DLC that I didn't get, but that only bumps it up to 2 majors with a grand skin ratio of 0.47. Tragic indeed. For third, we have Grover. Grover's case is almost the same as Willow's. He has a ton of random little snippets of skins and a recolor or 2 that were once presented as full skins, but also has some nice newer major skins to show off. The only reason he's this low is because of his age, being released on February 11th, 2016, and with just not enough skins to catch up to the norm. Again, he's just a hard character to make skins for, I'd imagine, which oddly seems to be a pattern so far, except for Atlas, who's just a guy. Grover has a skin ratio of 0.55. Next up is Moji. Ah, there she is. I mean, looking at the Paladins wiki page, at least it's super easy to see why. You got the default, the recolor, and then just 2 other skins and that's it. No accessories, no nothing. Atlas is very much like this too, but somehow it seems worse with Moji. Maybe just because she's older, being released on January 10th, 2018, and having a skin ratio of 0.57. She does have some nice skins though, even if the skin count is quite unimpressive. Poor gal. Also probably a hard character to make skins for. Moving on. Finally, 5th is Torvald. Being the previous record holder for longest character to go without a skin before he gained one, and Cassie took the butt stick. This is certainly not surprising at all. Same song and dance. He's old, he's got some skins, but you know, he's old, so yeah, his skin ratio is 0.67. So despite not gaining any skins for quite some time, at least old grandpa ate the lowest in the bunch. Just close. Just like with the top 5 highest on the list, I'll go up a bit more and give a few comments on the runners up to the bottom 5. Number 6 and number 7 are both Barrack and Ruckus with skin ratios of 0.7. This pair were both introduced from the very beginning of the game, so time is already against them hard. They are also the 2 to have the lowest major skin count out of the original cast, which is obviously how they ended up here. Number 8 is Dredge with a skin ratio of "F you, you deserve to be lower." Number 9 is Talus with a skin ratio of 0.78. Yeah, Talus was one of my original guesses since he's been out for quite some time with not so many skins overall to add to the count. Not really sure why, to be honest, except for the fact that he has somewhat of a generic design, literally just a kid that a respectable store wouldn't serve, or perhaps not generic, but a little boring. Again, not a jab, I like Talus. Number 10 is Corvus with a skin ratio of 0.81, which just goes to show how a new character with only a single skin to their name can drop from the highest skin ratio to the top 10 lowest. If I made this list a year ago, he would have been the top 5 for sure, but since he hasn't gained any new skins as of yet, he remains with a generally low skin ratio that will likely be bumped up in the near future if I were to guess. Alright, again, to blanket mention a bunch up to the top 20, we got Shaolin, Grok, Kanessa, Drogos, Ash, Io, Makoa, Maldamba, Cassie, Buck. You know what, I might as well just show you the list since I've already spoiled it all by now. And that's about it, I'd say. There's probably a lot more little stat tidbit things that I could glean and share with a list like this. Maybe if I find some more interesting stuff, I'll make another one of these in the future, or at least update it in some odd months or years. That could be fun. In any case, this is not a list I made to expose the Paladins devs for holding favorites. I'm not particularly about that kind of negative energy against the people behind the game I love and enjoy so much, especially considering how entitled a community can act sometimes about a free game. In fact, one of the main reasons I went and made this list is because I was tired of seeing people assume this and that character was the most ignored and favored with no feasible rhyme or reason, except for how annoyed they were at a character. In any case, this game is fun as hell, and the skins are no way to judge how fun something is, or how much better a character is from another. So have fun with whoever you want, and you don't have to get skins if you don't want to, and get skins if you do. Say GG's and be a good sport. Skins don't impact the game in any way whatsoever, so go on and enjoy yourself with your buds, no matter what game you're playing or what skin you're using. And with that being said, what are the 3 things we've learned today? Give Atlas a skin, give Cassie a skin, and leave Dredge to rot. I don't know how to end this thing, so thanks for watching.